Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
This is Ray Dudley, Artistic Director for Square Peg Productions. Have you ever thought about having your own YouTube web series? What do you think it would be like to have one for 5 years? And what do you think it would be like if ABC TV was thinking of picking it up and they were throwing around names like Jim Carrey and Rob Schneider to be a part of the project? What do you think it would be like if some other group, say some British group, copied your series and it got picked up by someone by the name of Denis Leary? How would you feel about that? Ever wonder what a pain it would be working with certain actors and what goes into the writing, producing, directing of a 5-year web series? How about the pressure to release a season or face a possible drop in viewers because you can't get the episodes out quick enough? Well, in this episode, I sit with Shawn Allen, producer, director, writer for the web series Paragods, and he's experienced all of those things for his series. This is another good one. Listen up.
But the thing about, egos and stuff, and that's the thing with Paragods, like now we have fun when we do it and stuff, but we weeded out all those people that had the egos and stuff. They were making it where we weren't having fun anymore. And finally, we just weeded them right out. It's like we want people that want to be there to have fun.
Interesting. Okay, so tell me about how Paragods started. Is it your baby? Were there other people involved in the original thought of it? I mean, were you guys just sitting around drinking in a pub one night? And well, I'm guessing some of it has to do with the fact that you work as an EMT, right?
Right, yes. I've always been into, I always had a video camera in my hand. Always filmed everything. When I learned how to do video editing is what really blossomed for me. I used to make home movies all the time. And then me and my young girls it's like, oh, let's do this little sketch and let's do this. And we'd sit there and make these little funny clips. And then we started sharing them with friends and we'd put them on YouTube. And then when I started going full-time in EMS and I would do 911, on the ambulance, we would get so many calls that, like, when you see TV, it's always about, it's so serious and, everything is like, everybody's dying and everybody needs to be saved. But when I was on the ambulance, it's like, wow, the majority of it is funny stuff that you walk into someplace and you're like, is this really going on right now? And, and like I said, I'd watch these shows and it was like Rescue Me with Denis Leary's show. And I'm like, it had a little bit of comedy mixed in, but it had also a lot of drama. And that's what I thought to myself, this should be a series about where a camera follows around paramedics and sees some of the funny stuff that goes on. So that's what I thought. And as I was doing this, I also put together for a local cable access station a show called Hometown Idol. It was based off of American Idol. And we were on like a lot of southern New Hampshire cable access stations. So when my TV came up to the area, they approached me and they're like, oh, we love my Hometown Idol and could you, come in and let's talk about putting it on. So I went in, I met them and they're like, we want to, put it on my TV. And I checked everything out to like, well, we stealing from American Idol and come to find out that how we did it, I guess wasn't stealing. If you get like 3 things, then it's considered copyright, infringement. So, but we didn't, we only kind of were stealing one thing from American Idol. So they're like, oh, let's put it on. But then we looked into it. It was also a copyright nightmare to go and try to get permission for all the songs we use. And I'm like, it wasn't worth my time or the money that was going to be given. So it's like, no, I'm all set. But they liked what I had. And they're like, well, do you have any other ideas? And I'm like, yeah, I definitely have an idea of a show about paramedics where, camera crew follows them around. And they're like, oh, okay, that sounds great. Can you make us a pilot, and we'll go from there. Like a pilot? I never made like a actual pilot like this, So I'm like, okay. So I put together this pilot, I put out I think on Craigslist at the time and got a bunch of people involved. And the first one was Cheryl Norton, who plays Heather, which you know very well. She was the very first one I casted. And then she brought in some of her theater friends. And anyways, we put together a show. But my goal was to make it very realistic. I wanted a little bit of funny, but I also, had a lot of drama in it. But like I said, I made it realistic, so the language was very realistic. And most of you know, when you're in a work space with all your buddies or other coworkers, there's a lot of colorful language, right? Mm-hmm. So I had that in there, so I brought it to my TV. And I said, all right, here's what I have. They looked at it and like, oh, this is great, but it's too adult. Can you tone it down? I'm like, okay. So we had the bleeps in there and everything, of course.
Yeah. And it was still too much?
Yeah. So I toned it down again, and then I brought it to them. But this time they changed over to bin TV. And so I brought it to them, and they're like, yeah, it's still too adult. But we're trying to be more family-friendly, so we're going to pass. So, of course, everybody was heartbroken. It's like, I guess we're not getting on my TV. So we just stopped everything and just went about our ways. And then like a month later, this unknown guy from New York, he's a producer, Scott St. John, he gives me a call. And he's like, hey, I saw, because I put some of the clips up on YouTube. So I saw some of the clips about this, paramedic show. And it's really interesting. Can you sit there and maybe send me a pilot? If I think it's good, I have some producers out in LA that might be interested. And they were like middle-type producers. They weren't like very high profile, but they were definitely, known producers. And I'm like, okay. But I didn't like the pilot that we originally did. So me and Cheryl kind of got together and like, hey, you still interested in doing this? And she's like, yeah. But now I had more ideas. I had a little experience. So we rebranded it again. And this time I thought I was too serious in the last one. So I'm like, yeah, we'll make it a little funny. So we got some new characters and stuff, and we put together this new pilot. We sent it to him. So I sent it to the guy, and he's like, all right. He goes, I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks, and when I look at it and stuff. He goes, and if it's good, I'll send it to my buddy out in L.A. I'm like, okay. I think like a month went by. He basically didn't like us stuff.
Yeah,
and
blew you off. Yeah.
He's like, keep your day job, buddy. So we kind of, like me and Cheryl again, got a little heartbroken. So it's like, all right, nothing's happening. And then sure enough, out of the blue, he gives me a call. He's like, I loved it. He goes, we thought it was great. He goes, but I thought it was so great that Scott St. John's always said that he never wants to bring garbage to the people he knows, because if he does and they find it garbage, then they're not going to trust him with anything else.
Sure.
So he always said that. So he always wanted the best. He goes, I loved it so much that I went above my mediocre friends and went to some big guys and sent it to them. He goes, do you know, and he throws out a name, but I think it's Alan Horowitz. He does Once Upon a Time,
the TV
show on ABC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he showed it to him, and I'm like, well, and at the time, I didn't know who he was. But once he said Once Upon a Time, oh, yeah, I know that show. He's like, well, then maybe you know this name. And he throws out J.J. Abrams. Well, of course I know J.J. Abrams, So he's like, they loved it and that, and they kind of have some interest, but they feel you need to make it more Reno 911.
Oh.
I was so against that. And they're like, we think you need a zany character, somebody that's just, that over-the-top one, kind of like Reno 911 with the guy with the short shorts and glasses. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to keep it realistic. I don't want that. I'm like, no, you really need to. So finally, I'm like, all right, I gave in. So we sat together, and now we rebranded it. And, of course, they put together another pilot, and we'll see what we can do. So we got together, we rebranded it, we brought in... Well, first we sat down with my buddy Josh Dawkins, who's been a big part of, the show and, a lot of the scenes we bring forward. And that's usually we get together with some beers, and we sit there.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, if you follow my Instagram and stuff or Facebook, I do a lot of craft beer tastings, but anyway, and then we
I think it's more than tasting.
Yeah.
We can get that right out, okay?
Well, yeah, maybe. Okay. So we would sit there and Cheryl knew it, and then we had another person, and we would sit there and we'd talk about, all right, how we can do this and stuff. And I remember we all worked on a movie together called The Madman Chronicles that I did. And I remember we had this guy come in to audition for the part of the killer. His name was Chris Doobie, and he wasn't very good on the audition. And it's not that he's a bad actor. He just wasn't good for that role. But it was kind of funny the way he auditioned for the role. So I always kept that in the back of my mind because I'm like, one, he's a good guy. And two, it just, something about him stuck out that, because he was funny with the way he auditioned, even though he wasn't trying to be funny. So when we were getting together, I'm like, all right, we got to come up with a zany character. So me and Josh kept throwing ideas out, and it's like, oh, what about this guy who's like in the cheerleading and he's stuck in the 80s? And that's when we made this tight pants wearing guy stuck in the 80s that loves dance and cheerleading. And I'm like, all right, I think I have the guy for it. I go, I think Chris Doobie should be the guy. And they all look at me. There's no way Chris Doobie, he can't do it. He's not. We saw that audition. There's no way. I'm like, I'm telling you. And they're like, no, I think you're making a mistake. I'm like, okay. So quietly, I'm like, all right, sure. But without them knowing, I said to Chris Doobie, I go, Chris, this is what I want you to do. I want you to make a video of a workout scene, and this is what the character's like. And so he sends me this video of him working out as this character, Chad, on Paragods. The funniest thing I ever saw, and he has a shaker weight. So I don't know if anyone sees it. It's up on Paragods if you see it. Anyways, so finally I sat down. We got together for our meeting again, and I'm like, I want this guy, Chris Doobie. And they're like, oh, we already said he's not good. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the video. You watch it and then tell me if it could be part of the show. And they looked at it and they laughed their butts off. And they're like, oh, yeah, let's get him. So that's how we did it. So anyways, I made it more Reno 911, but I still kept a lot of drama in it, too, to try to keep it realistic. So I sent it to them and kind of like working with ABC a little bit to try to get it on there. So we put the pilot, and finally ABC comes back to us and says, it's really not going to fit our format, so we're going to pass on it. So once again, me and Cheryl and everyone else was heartbroken. It's like, And of course, when you first start out, like when you have things like happen, it's like, oh my God, J.J. Abrams and ABC are interested in the show, and there was all talks about actually getting all these actors. Jim Carrey's name was thrown out. Yeah, it was so many different names, and Rob Schneider, and of course, then Rob Schneider's like, he wanted to basically own the show, and found out Jim Carrey was just using us as a ploy to get back at the movie. I forget who he works with, but he's like, he works with some studio, and they were having a falling out, so he's like, well, I'm going to go back to TV, and I'm looking at this show called Paragods.
Are you serious?
No, I'm serious. So, of course, we're like, oh my God. But then, of course, we find out it was just a ploy. He was just trying to, get the studio to bend a little bit, and he wasn't going back to TV, which he actually did, because now he's on Showtime. But anyway, so we were heartbroken to find out we didn't make it. But we loved it so much that it's like, you know what? We're having fun. And we finally had a good group of people that were like, let's continue to do it. Something happens, it happens. And that's what we did. We put it out on YouTube. We started making a web series. And I didn't want it to be like a regular web series. Like we see some that are like, 6 minutes long?
Yeah.
And they're just scattered about. I wanted, when we did it, to be an actual, like, if you were watching TV. So that's what we did. We did our 25-minute episodes, and we put on YouTube once a week, 6 episodes. And along the way, we've had some heartbreaking moments.
Before we go too far into that, tell me a little bit more about you. You kind of blew right over, I was making videos with my daughters. But let's be honest, making videos is not, for people to watch, it's not that easy. There's a lot of work in that. Someone had to edit them. Right. So what's your background in all of that? Where did all that come from?
I have no background. I have no experience at all with editing. And
so who's doing the editing all this time? You?
I do all the editing. So I basically, because I loved it so much that I'm like, I'm going to get one of these video editing softwares and try it. And once I did it, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. And it started making my videos look like professional, like, oh, looks really good. And then I'd show it to, well, actually, so we used to do home movies, and my daughters would complain that, like, I would always videotape. And they're like, stop filming, Dad, you know? And I'm like, but I filmed everything. So when I would put the videos together, it would look like a reality show. And then so I started doing the editing to make it look like it was a reality show. It's just a lot of just playing around with the software.
Seriously?
Yeah. And then that's how I got involved into cable access. And then they taught me a few things. This guy, Dean Zanello, down at Sandown, Channel 17. He's like, oh, this is how you do this and do that. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's just a lot of being alone and at my desk and just experimenting with the software.
I know that the series has evolved over the 5 years.
Oh, yes, a lot.
Talk a little bit about that, how it first started off. Well, first I want to ask you, do you think if you did it more like Cops rather than Reno 911, they might have taken a better look at it?
No, because that was the thing. They wanted... Because I think when I did it originally, it was more like Cops.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, it's not going to work. We want it like Reno 911. And that's why I fought it. It's like, I don't think it would. And they're like, no, this is how it should be. But who am I to say? It's like, all right, I'm having these people that are interested, and it might get us a chance to be on real TV. And so I'm like,
were you ever afraid they would just copy it? That they would steal your idea?
It has been copied over the years. There was a show called Sirens, which came out after us. First, it came out after us over in England. And I remember, and I don't know if it's any of those guys, but I remember when Paragods first started it on YouTube, we got some people from England that liked it. And it's like, oh, wow, people over in England are watching us. And next thing you know, there's a show called Sirens over in England. And then they brought it over here to the U.S. Dennis Leary picked it up.
He did?
Yeah. Of course, I was pissed. Sorry for saying that. But right. That Dennis Leary picks up some England show when there's one right here in the United States by an actual firefighter EMT. And so
are you cashing royalty checks from them?
No. And we realized that they were actually, I almost think about something. It's like, oh, geez, should I sue? But they were stealing ideas because when Paragon started, the chief was this kind of foul-mouthed chief that didn't know really his dispatcher's name, that did everything for him. He could never remember. Well, Sirens did the same thing. And it was all these coincidences that were all the same.
No kidding.
Even some storylines. So when we were doing Paragons, we started saying things about that. It's like, oh, they're kind of copying us. And the next thing you know, Sirens was starting to give little subliminal messages back to us, saying things. And so we had this barbecue scene.
That's funny.
And then next thing you know, later on, a few episodes later, they have a barbecue scene. And during their barbecue scene, they're drinking this beer, and it's called Sandville. There's no Sandville in the world. That's a completely made-up fictional name, and they're drinking Sandville beer.
How funny is that?
Yeah, so
almost not funny.
Right, so it's like, it's like some ways it was like a...
It's a little dig, huh?
Yeah, so...
When it started out, and you wanted it to be kind of serious, but now you've got this genre that you have going for you. You stayed like that for a while, right?
I mean, did.
It kind of had a name, or people looked at it as almost college...
Right.
Frat humor.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing, like, after the first season, which had a lot of colorful language, and then I heard some from friends, like, the language is too much, man. I don't want to watch it. So then I started like, I don't want it to be like that. So we basically toned down the language. We pretty much got rid of the language. And then it's like, of course, some of the scenes were still a little inappropriate, to watch. Like, we never showed anything, but it was implied.
It's like a good horror movie. It implies the horror.
So then, like, all right, we kind of got to stop that. So we keep evolving. And finally, so that's what we did. We kept evolving. It's like, so I made it more TV friendly, which probably what I should have done to begin with. So season 3 and 4 were more TV friendly. But now season 5's here. Basically, well, I don't know if you want to get into it now.
Sure, fire away. We'll come back if we have to.
Because season 5 is like, it's getting tough for me to keep doing the show. So I decided this was going to be the end. But my dreams of it ever, getting picked up or anything, like, I have no dreams of it anymore. If it does, I mean, I still have the thing, like, if it does, great. If it doesn't, you know what? We had fun. Mm-hmm. So that's not my dream to keep trying to, get that. So my thing now, when I did season 5, is like, all right, you know what? I have nobody that has a say in this. The producers no more. There's no more producers out in New York and LA that have control or to tell me what to do. So I'm going to go back to the way I originally kind of planned it. And that was to be more realistic, less zany. So I kind of had the Chad character, who was our most zany character, and I toned him down. And even the Ed character they're not as zany and stupid as they have been previously. They're still true to their character, but it's not as exaggerated. So
the early ones were very episodic, right? I mean, first of all, let me say, I love the way they're all called Some Incident.
Yeah.
That's really a great idea.
Oh, thank
very
you.
Unique. But now it seems, I've only been involved in the last 2 years, but the last 2 years seem to almost have a theme or thread running through it where you're following these different storylines.
Right.
The first ones were not like that, were they? Were they just kind of an episode, each one individual? There
was always a storyline throughout, but it wasn't as pronounced as it is now. But yeah, there was always a smaller storyline.
When you look back, that 5 years is a long time to be doing anything. When you look back at the earlier ones, would you do something different? You look at them now and you go, I don't. We could have changed that a bit. And I guess I'm talking about mechanically, maybe bring in more cameras or different sound or something like that. Or would you have changed the stories at all when you look back? What would you do? Oh,
yeah, I would definitely change things up because over the years, you improve. So, like, my storytelling has become better. When I first started out, I didn't really know anything about writing for TV and things like that. But as I progressed, it's like I started learning how to tell a story in 30 minutes and also tell a story throughout 6 episodes. So I think my writing would be a little bit better, and I would change that. And definitely even my filmmaking has become better, and in my editing. And, I've learned each time I do a season, it's like I've already learned how to do other things in my editing that I didn't know before.
If you had your druthers, what would your equipment look like? Would it be just a single camera still? I know that sometimes you had brought in 2 or 3 to get different angles. I don't know why it didn't happen all the time because I'm not on the inside there.
Well, because we're pretty much no budget.
So
it's like, gotcha. So we're limited on who can run cameras, and we don't always have cameramen available. So that's why a lot of times I'm behind the camera. And so, but if I had my way, we would probably run a 3-camera shoot, all with the camera that I have, which is that they do reality shows with. And I would still treat it like a reality show, but it's all scripted, of course. And
what were some of the largest obstacles that you've overcome? I know you're borrowing a firehouse, and then there's casting, and then there's writing. What along the way were some of the biggest obstacles for you?
Casting.
Yeah?
Yeah. Actors.
You can flesh that out. Don't feel bad here.
Well, yeah, they can be sometimes tough to work with.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, because, you're not paying these guys, so, you have to, be aware of that. But it's like, we always told people, like, you should be doing this for fun and not because of you're hoping to make it big or you're hoping to make money. Or it's like, this is like why you do plays. You enjoy it.
Right.
So that's what this is all about. And that's why we make it a family. Paragon's a family. And everybody has a say. I mean, I always tell you can bring something to me. If it kind of fits with what we're doing, sure. Like you brought that Abbott and Costello scene, which we did, and there's a lot of people that bring ideas. Some people have ideas, but they don't know how to write it, so they're like, and then I'll try to write it for them. And
are you comfortable with the cast as they are now?
I am, but that's definitely been my biggest challenge because there's been times where we will be filming and or we're getting ready to film that day, and one of the actors will be like, "Yeah, I can't make it." Now you get 10 people on set waiting for somebody that decides now they're not going to show up. Or, you've casted this role and then the person decides they're not going to do it. And I got to say, I've become really good at improvising, with my script. It's like, oh, now we don't have this character anymore. So now I got to change it to where we don't have this person and rewrite it as we're getting ready to film. We've had that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, not even evolution. There's just been a lot of people who come in, they're in one episode and you never see them again.
Right, yeah.
They're gone. I don't know what happens to them. I have no idea. Because I show up and I see them and I'm thinking, oh, great. This good. They're going to be in for the season.
Yeah. Some people also, I think they don't realize how much work is involved. As much as we would love to get every scene done right away, there's always things that happen, Things go wrong, and we have to now change things up, and it delays, and people sit around sometimes, and they don't like that.
Yeah, I had to learn that. I'm not used to that from theater, right? So
right.
I had to learn, you're there for the day. Just don't even think about, I have something to do at 5 o'clock.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
And that's what I think a lot of people come in and realize that's what happens, and they're like, I don't want this. But they don't realize Paragods isn't the only, show or movie that does it. That happens everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. Anytime there's a camera involved, it's going to happen.
Right. I think, though, for doing it for 5 years, we pretty much have it down pretty well to move things along. And the great thing is a lot of the characters have been doing it so long that you don't have to sit there and do a lot of takes or tell them to spend time directing because they already know how to do it.
Yeah, it's been fun for me these past 2 years to see some of that stuff just happen. And some hilarious stuff that's gone on there.
Oh, yeah. And the great thing about having somebody like you with the theater experience and stuff is, again, you know how to do things that, again, not much direction's needed for you.
Yeah,
so
thanks. Do any episodes stand out in your mind as really I love them or I really hated them? I wish we hadn't done that. Or, yes, this is the pinnacle. We've peaked here.
Yeah, well, I think I've had a lot of them that I'm like, oh, this is going to be great.
This is fascinating to me because I don't know much about film. I really do not. It's a new medium to me, and so these are things which I enjoy being on film. I love the process. I have not worked much behind the process, being an actor. I normally fall into the character role. But when I've seen things happen, like I did a small little video in Portsmouth, and they had those little orb cameras set up on tripods. They had like 3 of them working by Bluetooth.
Yep.
I'm like, what are you kidding? It's fascinating to me. It was really remarkable. So my hat's off to what goes on here. Yep. I begin to have a real appreciation for what it takes. That's why I'm curious about the obstacles that you faced. And I want to get back to that because I'm sure there was more than just actors. I mean, I know for a fact that there are. But I don't want anybody who's ever going to watch this or hear this to think, hey, we'll just grab a camera and go do it, and it looks easy, because it's not easy.
No, it's not.
I've seen the schedules. I'm like, how the hell does this happen?
And thank God for Mike Weiner tackling that, because I used to do the scheduling, and it's a tough job.
Says the editor.
Yeah. But for me, like I have some episodes I love, and I have some episodes I hate and I think every episode I pretty much love, but it all depends on how it was executed. Like the Black incident, where the Chad character kind of says something that the media, kind of twists to make it sound like he's being racist. Great episode. I mean, written well, but I don't think I executed it correctly the way I filmed it. So I kicked myself in the butt for that, but there's some episodes too where comedy is probably the toughest thing you can do.
I'm with you.
Because comedy is a lot about timing. If your timing is off, it just throws the joke out, or how you deliver the joke. And that can be tough. So there's sometimes I'll see an episode, again, it'll be written really well, and then it just wasn't executed correctly. And I hate to say it, I try to always have people direct other than me, because a lot of times I'm stuck behind a camera, and you really shouldn't direct behind a camera because it's very difficult. So sometimes when I'm looking at it through the camera and filming, I'm worried about my angles, then I'll get home and realize, that joke wasn't said right. It comes off wrong and there's no fixing it. So it's then I'll kick myself in the butt for that.
Yeah. Have you had any where you've written, and I know you must now be able to write with the character's voice in your head.
Oh, yeah.
But have you written stuff that actually came out better than you had envisioned it?
Yeah, but I can't think of one at the moment. Right. But I know I had things that So, oh yeah, this is a lot better than I thought. Like some of the ones I thought, like, this is kind of like not really a throwaway episode, but it's like, one of those middle episodes. Like, all right, we don't have to worry too much about a story, and that turned out great.
Are there characters that did not come back that you wish you could have brought back, or are you just okay with they're gone?
I'm happy with who we have and stuff. I mean, yeah, it would be great if, we could have always kept everybody together. It was tough losing Stephen O'Brien, who played the Dudley character. Yeah, there's a lot of characters. I think could have been fun, but, they all have other plans.
Yeah.
And
you made the comment that you're through after 5 years because it's a lot. You're tired. It's a lot of work. Well,
yeah.
I don't forget how you framed it, but are you retiring the series because it's done? Or you retiring the series because it's all you and you can't be all you all the time? And what's going on there? Why after 5 years?
I think because Paragods takes up a big chunk of my time. Like, we shoot once a month and we shoot 6 episodes. So right there's 6 months. And then I have to write. So usually I spend a couple of months writing before we start filming. In that month, you're making changes, you're trying to cast, you're getting things ready. And then after that, the next couple of months, like 3 months, is done of editing. So you're talking probably 10 months of my life that is just Paragods involved. So there's been other projects I wanted to do that I haven't got around to. Like I have this wine show. It's just a reality show of these 2 girls going out wine tasting. That's been on hold now for 2 years because I have it pretty much done, but I just haven't found the time to completely finish it. Mm. And I have this movie called Nightmare Reunion that I filmed 4 years ago.
Wow.
And I've been picking away at it and stuff. And because I don't want to release something unless I feel happy with it. And there was a lot of challenges in that, so it's like I want to make sure it's done correctly, and so I keep picking away at it, but I only can pick away at it because Paragods, again, takes a big part of my life. Some of the people say, you don't have to put it out, when at this time, and you can wait, it doesn't have to go out, but it does, because every time Paragods stays away from not doing anything new, you start losing fans. Like Facebook, it was up to 5,000 at the end of season 4. Now it's, down to like 4,800. But you start losing people each time. People start forgetting about us. People move on because they don't want to wait.
I often think about these TV shows. This is a new thing they all do, right? Where they'll show 6 episodes and then take a 6-month break.
Right.
As a fan, it disturbs me.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you forget. I forget. I'm not going to go back and binge watch what the first 6 episodes just so I can catch up on now what's the new season premiere is going to be.
Yeah.
I could see why you'd lose momentum after all that.
But I just want to say, though, like the last season 4 and season 5 hasn't been all me. It still takes up all that time for me. But I have like Mike, who does all the cast and he does the scheduling. And then I have Adam that helps me, Adam Griswold, who helps me with some of the writing, but he's been also a big part of the editing. So me and him have been chipping away at this season. We're both editing. Some scenes he'll edit, some scenes I will. But then I put them all together in a story. So I've been having a lot of help. So that's definitely...
You made the comment also that Paragods is kind of like a family now. And I tend to sit back a lot when I'm there and let people just ramble on. But for me, it's been pretty cool to go and watch all of these different actors from different states come in and talk about what's going on. Some of them are in film, some of them are in commercials, some are doing stand-up, some are doing theater. It's been pretty remarkable. I love that facet of it. And they're very open with each other.
Yep.
Very open at times. I mean, almost too open about what they want to discuss. So to me, that's been a great feeling. And I do want to say before we go too far that thank you for inviting me on. I wasn't sure when I first got your message, what this thing was. And
no, you've been great. Like I said, I got to say, your character has definitely made the last couple of seasons fun to write. And you bring it to life.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, and I got to say, you're been a standout. And this now for season 5, we brought on Holly Schaff.
Yeah.
And she is great. And I was just complimenting Mike Weiner on what a find he did finding you in Holly. Because the two of you on scene together, you guys have chemistry.
Thanks.
Yeah, like Jen, who's out in the hallway listening right now to us. But we sit there and watch some of these scenes before everyone else do because she watches me edit. And we just constantly say, like, how well you two work together and your facial expressions and everything. It's like, yeah. The scenes we've had with her have been great. Yeah. Really great. I've been enjoying it. It's been a wonderful ride. I mean that. It's, again, I didn't know what to expect, but it's been refreshing. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun. The character, you've written some really funny stuff for me, which has been the lobster incident and which was the first one. Yeah. To me, it was one of my favorites. Oh, and that was. And to me, that's one of the ones where, like, I think it's real well written, but I wish I executed a little bit differently when I filmed it, you know. Mm-hmm. I want to get back to the obstacles, because casting wasn't the only one. You've had some issues with the firehouse itself. Well, yes and no. Rightly so, because you're borrowing a facility. Well, I used to volunteer at the Sandown Fire Department where we film Paragods. And I volunteered for 13 years. And I became good friends with the chief, Bill Tapley. And, of course, when I started Paragods, I was still volunteering. And he'd be like, yeah, sure, you can use the place. Of course, not everybody feels, we should. Like, not all the firefighters feel we should be in there because they feel like we're invading their home. Yeah, I get that. And they have a right to say that because they are. I mean, we are. But I try to let them know how thankful we are and stuff. And we try to stay out of their way. And sometimes that's the big obstacle to me is trying to make the cast and crew realize this is a working firehouse. These guys can come in any minute because of an emergency. We have to stay out of their way. And I think some people get a little upset, like, oh, my God, why are they getting, upset? Why do we have to park way down the other end? It's because the firefighters need the front. Such tough lives. So that's the thing. So I'm dealing with some of the firefighters that, don't really want us there. But for the most part, they don't mind us. They enjoy, a lot of them do enjoy the show, especially the chief. Yeah, he enjoys it. And, and I think it's their way of thanking me for my service by letting me be there. Oh, that's nice, though. And we don't destroy the place. We pretty much keep it the way we found it. And yeah. I know you have trouble finding other locations periodically, right? I mean, it's pretty... Yeah. Well, house scenes are tough. It's like... Because we're all scattered, as you said, we're all from different states. We're scattered out. So we try to find that central location. So, trying to find... And it can't show up in every episode either. Right, it has to be different. You'd hope. So that's been the biggest challenges. How's your fan base? We're all over the place. YouTube says that we're, believe it or not, more women than men, but it was only by 2% or something. Yeah. But we're right in that 18 to 49 range of people. But people usually who love shows like The Office or Scrubs are the ones that kind of like us. We have a lot of EMS people, but we don't have as many as... I think we have more fire than EMS, because we've had a problem with, the people in EMS, they feel like we're making fun of their profession. Oh. And I try telling them we're not. I think they judge it before watching. They don't even watch the show because they find they're just a bunch of idiots and they're making fun of us and we don't want this. It's like if you watch a show, you realize that we don't make fun of it. We keep it realistic. Like how you see those EMTs react to the patients is how a real EMT paramedic is going to react to the patient. Things we do, like how we assess the patients, the meds we give them, that's all accurate. And of course, there's some idiots that on the show that will say things that are inappropriate or do things that are inappropriate. Like the first season where the character finds a severed hand because the guy chopped it off the lawnmower. And he goes looking for the severed hand, and then of course he picks it up, and he's, waving with it and high five, and of course, that's people funny to me. Right, it's funny, and but of course those EMTs are like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing that, showing us that we're buffoons and we're not serious. It's like, guess what? All that was based off of a real incident because I remember the jackass that did it. We were on the scene, and the guy had a severed hand, and he's literally waving with it, What? Really? Yes. And it's and we're all amazed that he's doing this, but it's happened. So it's we're not making fun of it. This happens. And just like the show, when people do inappropriate things like that, there's consequences for it. They get in trouble, like we had on this upcoming season where people get fired.
Right. I was going to bring that up.
So it's like if people do things that they shouldn't, we're not making fun of the profession. We're showing what happens and also the consequences for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I like about this past 2 seasons have been you actually delve into a lot of their lives. I mean, Mike's character is really going through a lot in these 2 seasons.
Yeah.
It's been pretty interesting to see where his life's been going.
Right. Which
is really good.
Yeah, and because, like, to Mike's character, he's an alcoholic. And fortunately, there is things like that in the profession, you see some things that keep you up at night, and some people try to drink it away. And that's basically what that character did.
Well, and the realism with the cop shoots the person.
Right. When I do Paragon too, I try to take stories from that actually happened. So, like, where people are just randomly shooting cops just because they're cops. It's like, so we threw that into the storyline. And these small town cops, they don't shoot many people. Even city cops don't shoot many people. So we wanted to show the effects it has on them. But in case people, the question I always ask is like, oh, how do you come up with this stuff? Just about every scene that we did, like all the 911 scenes, are based off of real incidents that I have been a part of. Of course, I'll change the names, I'll change probably genders, and I exaggerate it, but that's pretty much what happened. I can't think of too many scenes that I wrote that weren't true.
That's a shame. That's not good for humanity.
No. Yeah, that's why. Like
volumes.
Yeah, the hand, the guy slipping on the woman's toy.
Car accidents. I've seen all that stuff. Oh, that is some crazy stuff that's happened there. So where are you going to go from here? I know you said the wine thing, and you have a movie that you're trying to do. Is there an unstarted project that you want to get to?
Yeah, because I love writing. I do a lot of writing. I have a lot of short films that I haven't done that just sitting there waiting.
Were you in the film festival last year somewhere north of Boston?
I was, yeah. We were for, it was a film me and Ian Lyons did a while ago called The Rental. It was here at the Snob Film Festival in Concord.
Yeah, I remember that. So when you go out now, you've got all this experience, at least 5 years of camera work and editing and all of that. How do you think your next project's going to look? Are you going to go into it with one camera, or you're like, no, you know what? Now I know we're going to go into multiple camera angles at one time.
In movies, they pretty much only use one camera. TV shows are different. They'll use the multiple. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I just know it's every time I do it, it looks and sounds better and better.
Personally, are you fulfilled, not fulfilled, or is there a bucket list waiting for you that you're trying to eat through? I mean, you're still youngish. You've got all this great experience. I know youngish, but look at me. That's why. But you've got all this experience now that you can bring to the next project. Right. Are you going to go into a hiatus for a little while, or?
No. I plan on going right in. So as soon as I finish Paragods here, then I'm going to finish that movie we worked on, then the wine show. But I've also started another web series it's a spinoff of Paragods. That involves the TV reporter that was in the finale of season 4. But that's going to be your typical web series, 6-10 minute long series. Because I don't want to get into that big thing again.
30 minutes is a long time.
It is, yeah.
It takes a lot of film to make a 30-minute.
Right. Well, a lot of people. I always laugh because a lot of the independent filmmakers around the area talk about it's so doing a full feature, it takes a long time, and I only can do them once in a blue moon. And it's like, if you think about Paragods, we do 2 full features in a year, because it's, 6 hours long? 3 hours long. And some episodes are even almost an hour, so.
It's quite an accomplishment. That's all my questions. I'm glad you came in. Anything you wanted to spill your guts on? Just me and you.
Watch Paragods on YouTube. We have all 4 seasons up there right now. If you watch season 1 and 2, you may not want to watch it with the kids. Season 3 and 4, it's TV friendly.
When does 5 go up?
We're looking for 5, probably mid-May. I think it'll be done by then.
We shoot shortly again.
Yes, we shoot in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Kind of not looking forward to it.
Right.
Because it's the last.
Yeah, it'll be last, but then plan on as we'll have a crew party and stuff, or a premiere party. But
Well,
it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. Again, I'm humbled. It's been beyond what I had hoped it would be or even thought it would be. It's more. I'm having so much fun. Again, because I did theater, and really I'm kind of tired of it. I still do it, but this has just been refreshing. I love the process. I love watching the interaction. I love looking at the work that's involved in it, and then I love watching the final product. It's magic what comes out from all of the work that goes in.
Has any of your family and friends watched it?
My family watches it. My wife doesn't. She doesn't really care. She doesn't even like watching me in theater hardly. So.
Well, the other thing with Paragots, too, is not everybody loves that documentary feel with the camera moving and the shakiness. Some people, they get sick by that, or they don't like that type of genre. So it's like, so Paragon's not for everybody, and I know that. So it doesn't bother me when somebody's like, I don't like it.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want to. You don't want to please everybody, and you can't please everybody.
Right,
You'd go crazy trying to change things up every time someone said, well, I wish you had done it this way or something. If you chase your tail doing that, oh, you're a dead man.
Yeah, and I think I may have done that early on in life, and then that's no more.
That's what I'm saying. Look what you're bringing to all the next project. All that great advice.
But watch season 5, because I think season 5 is the best yet. You know, it deals with cancer, it deals with suicide, it deals with alcoholism. You know, it just deals with everything, you know?
Yeah, it's been great to watch. Season 5 for me has been wonderful to watch get filmed. Yeah. I almost hate sitting in the room waiting to go on, because there's a lot that happens. Right. And there's a lot of things that you don't see as a character that's going on in other people's lives. And so to finally get to see some of it, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was happening over there. I didn't know that line was involved.
So I don't think I've ever asked this as an actor. So like where you just come in and you film your scenes, how is it for you to, when you see it put together? Like, what's that like to you? It's like to see how you're basically, because, you know, you think you're acting your character a certain way, and then sometimes editing can change it. Yeah. What's it like for you watching it back?
So I've been happy with the way you've edited it and what I think I've portrayed. But I could see where it might come off not the character that you wanted. And you don't get to, until the final product, you don't get to know that. Right. I don't see the dailies. I don't see the cuts. I don't see any of that. So fortunately, at this point, it's been really very comforting. I'm happy with it. You didn't make me look like an idiot. I did that on my own. I'm my own product of what I've done. But the other problem is I don't get to see if it really worked. We hope it does. We do the cuts. But you are under time constraints during the day. And so until it actually comes out, I don't get to see the final product. Again, in going back to theater, you rehearse, and you know what the final product is, and you put that out there. But here, you just kind of do 3 or 4 takes, and you're moving on. So as an actor, it's almost not refreshing to see it, but you kind of are always hesitant that it didn't work properly or didn't come off.
Yeah, I've seen some actors where they beat themselves up after a scene that they film, like, I did bad here, and then they look back later and like, oh, it actually came out pretty nice. And
yeah, but you wouldn't know until that happens, which is a shame. The other thing I do miss is, as an actor, I hate sitting in the green room or the waiting room because I like to watch other actors. Yeah. I like to see what they bring to the table. I like to see their talent. I like to hear what they're saying and then say whether or not I would do it that way. Not that I'm ever going to.
Well, you know you're not forced to sit in the green room and come watch.
Yeah, I know, and I probably should have been out there helping you too, right? I could have. Yeah, but I know. Damn it. Now you bring that up.
Well, you got one more episode to
help out on? Yeah, no, I'm going to stay. Now that I've made that commitment, I'm going to stay by the coffee. Yeah. But thanks for coming by.
All right, thank you very much.
It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. This has been a Square Peg production. If you'd like to find out more about Square Peg and all that we do, you can find us on Facebook or at www.squarepegnh.com.